Hello, everybody out there. You are tuned in to The Local Lens, the podcast from the Powell County Health Department and Kentucky Rio, where we go inside our community's experience with the drug epidemic. And we do that through having interviews with people. And our guests on this episode are a couple of old friends of mine. You might remember them from, I think, the 6th episode that we ever released on this show. It's Jeremy and Edna Thompson, a married couple who at the time were peer support specialists for Spark Ministries. And if you want to hear more about that or their histories and stories in general, then you can go back in our archives and listen to their full episode from 2020. But this episode is not about that. This is about what they are doing now, and that is starting and running a sober living house. We're going to be looking at their approach to providing sober living as an option to people. And I'm going to go on and introduce this thought to you all real quick, and I want you to hold this in your heads through this whole episode. Sober living houses should be like restaurants in an area. You should have enough restaurants in an area to be able to meet everyone's desires so that everyone is satisfied with their restaurant options. And each restaurant would offer a different kind of meal catered to different kinds of people. Sober living is very similar in that we should have different kinds of sober living houses. We should have sober living catering to several different kinds of people in our communities because a lot of people need sober living houses. They need help with that. So we're going to be looking at Jeremy and Edna's specific approach through their sober living house that's now open. It's called Redemption House, and if you listen to this whole episode, you'll see what their approach to it is. You'll see how you can find it, how you can go to it, go visit at it, donate to it, volunteer, help out with it, go live there, and yeah, we'll see how it all goes. This is The Local Lens. I'm your host, Nate Brooks. These are our people using our voices, telling our stories, because no one sees it like we do.
My name is Jeremy Thompson. I'm the founder of Redemption House.
How does that feel to say?
It feels pretty good. It's been a long time coming. This has been a vision of mine that God gave me 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's just been, that was in Texas and then moved to Oklahoma, and then God moved us here and worked here for 2.5 years in recovery, and now I'm starting my own thing. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
There you go. Congratulations.
I'm Edna Thompson. I'm Jeremy Thompson's wife. So I'd be like the co-founder.
Yeah.
Nice. And then we also have.
And I'm Taylor Morris. I'm Jeremy and Edna Thompson's spiritual son, a new addition to the family.
There you go. Welcome to the family. You've just moved up here from Texas like 6 months ago.
About 6 months ago.
Yeah. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Welcome to it.
Part of God's vision for all of us.
I guess so. And they were sure to show me this sick DJ cut that Taylor has been working on.
Eric.
I love that.
Yeah, so if it wasn't already obvious, there is a lot of love in this room. Just friends sitting around talking about what they're excited about. Bring it on, Taylor. How'd you get into all this?
So what I told you 6 months ago, they went down to Texas, and we just had a little sit-down conversation in a Denny's diner. Yeah.
One of the best places on the planet, right?
That's where everything happens. And
at like midnight too.
Mm-hmm. And we were just catching up because we've been, distant for a good while. I knew them at the old church we used to go to, and we were catching up, and he started talking about Kentucky, and he said maybe you should come visit us, and I said okay, I probably will. And then I got down here and saw everything, and I just felt, well, maybe I just want to move up here, you know. And
he fell in love with the gorge.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you're also like Wichita Falls area?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice. There you go.
And he dabbled in drugs a little bit, never got too crazy or nothing, but he had a little experience with them, and his raising kept him from going too deep like us. So.
Okay.
I'm thankful for the raising that I did have, though.
Yeah.
Would have been a lot worse off without it.
Yeah. Cheers to that, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we are in the Redemption House, complete with incomplete walls and not completely painted walls and all that stuff, and this is right at the start of it, right?
Yes, this is the very beginning.
You were telling me a little bit that this has come together pretty quickly.
Yeah. So a few months back, I was let go from my job that I had in recovery. I won't mention no names, but In that time, I felt like God told me to sit still, and Edna agreed, and so I sat still for about a month, and kind of had a pity party for a week or two, and then got over that and decided to pray and seek God. And then 6 weeks ago, I started my LLC, which is Redemption Services LLC, and then the Redemption House is what I'm going to be running, the sober living here. It's a 20-bed facility. I'll be able to fit 20 guys at least in here. And that's the goal, is to be able to help people, point them to Jesus while giving them the necessary tools to practice long-term recovery and live a life back in society, instead of taking from society, being able to give back.
So let's real quick lay down who exactly this is for. It's for men,
Yes.
18 and up.
Yeah, men 18 and up. It's not, and the difference between our sober living facility, we're not going to just accept addicts. If a homeless person, a guy or somebody that just got down on their luck, lost their place, the flood victims, if they want to get on their feet and they want to, as long as they're willing to stay clean and sign the living contract, then they're able to stay here. It's $100 a week. That covers everything but their food, and that's rides to work and everything until they can get a vehicle. And so that's kind of where our main audience is, people coming out of jail and rehab.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah.
People coming out of jail and coming out of rehab. I know that some rehabs do a lot to help people get hooked up with a job coming out of it.
Yes.
Do you expect most people that are coming here are going to be employed while they're living here?
Yes, they'll have 2 weeks to have employment. That's the max. That's if they don't have identification. We will help them get identification. I've got with the landlord. He will help them pay their rent first couple weeks until they get a job, because we do know at the end of the day, sometimes in addiction, we lose all of our identification, we lose everything, and we start from square one. He said that he could put them to work temporarily just to pay the rent until they get a job, and then that way they're not kicked out. They're not turned away, because a lot of times there's a application fee. There's certain things, and with us, we want to be a little different. We want to accept anybody. The only people we do have to exclude right now is sex offenders, just because we're not licensed for that or nothing. In the future, that might be something we open another house for, because I believe everybody needs Jesus. So,
yeah, you're probably right there for sure. So, what are, let's see, sober living houses? That is what this is, right?
Yes.
Is it? Okay. So, what's the is there a difference between this and a halfway house?
Okay, the terms are used interchangeably a lot. There actually is a difference. Usually a halfway house means that it's court ordered, and it's usually the state has something to do with that.
Okay.
Usually like the jails, or the prison that they come out of, that'll be a condition of their parole. With a sober living facility, it's basically the same thing. They can be court ordered here. I do hope to, I'm in talks with Clark County right now to get, their drug court and parolees to open this up to get inspected, make sure that they can come here, and possibly Montgomery and Powell as well. As far as Ashland, I've got people, Pathways in Ashland, I've got a guy that's going to help me out, and the ARC facilities, they're going to, I've been in talks with some of the guys that I'm familiar with there, and they're going to help me get them here. When they get here, they don't have to be employed, but they do have to have a job once they're here. They don't necessarily already have to have a job.
Yeah.
But and then if this doesn't work, as we know, there's no guarantee that everybody's going to mesh. So if per se, they couldn't get along with each other, or they didn't like the style that we run this place, then we would help them get to another sober living facility, transitional living, or halfway house type deal.
Okay. Yeah, and that's actually interesting point that I don't know if I would have gotten around to asking today. Because you're going to have a lot of guys in this house, and they're going to be like grown men, with full habits that they've had their whole lives. People just live differently from each other.
Absolutely.
How does that get managed? Well, first, another question before we get into that. Have you ever lived in a sober living house?
I've lived in a sober living house. I've lived in 2 sober living houses before. I've lived in a halfway house in Texas. That was when I came home from prison. I was court ordered to be in there as part of my parole for 3 months. I had to complete the place. They had classes 12 hours a day. If you didn't work, you went to classes 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
If you worked, you only had to do 4 hours worth of classes a day, 5 days a week, go home on the weekends.
Yeah. Okay. And Edna, did you ever do anything like this?
No, I didn't have to do that.
Okay, because if I'm remembering right, you like didn't do any real programs or anything either, right? You were just kind of like willed it through, right? Yeah. That's incredible. Goodness.
Church, God.
Yeah. There you go. How are you feeling about getting into all this?
I'm excited because I know the vision that this has been a long time coming. Like he said, he had a vision 7 years ago. He got prophesied on 7 years ago about it. And, you know, this just it coming to pass. I told him when he got let go of from his last job, I was like, you weren't even supposed to go to it. I mean, that was him being, you know, sometimes we do fall into that disobedience. And sometimes we want to be impulsive. And that's where he jumped and he shouldn't have jumped. When it's all said and done, I'm excited because, you know, God told me just a few weeks ago just to surrender all. No matter what I got to do, no matter what I've got to lose, nothing matters but God. That's the bottom line. So if I'm doing what God's telling us to do, that's all that matters. And, you know, that's where I'm at with it. I'm excited. The vision just everything's coming together. So.
Yeah.
And it's not just, he mentioned a little bit, but, you know, when he was told to sit down, it wasn't just like me telling him to sit down. You know, after I told him he needed to get out of his pity party and get over it. And if he would have listened to God in the first place, he wouldn't be there. And
tough thing to hear.
Yeah.
And he didn't listen to me at first, but then, you know, some men spoke over his life as well. And I had a brother in Texas that also didn't know nothing was going on. Spoke over the same situation, and it was, you need to do your own. And that's something that Jeremy had already known, and it was like 3 different people that spoke that over him
in like 2 weeks.
In like 2 week period.
Yeah.
And, you know, and God just started unfolding it. And, you know, I see big things coming from this, and I really feel like that now is the time Jeremy's going to be able to actually walk in what God's called him to walk in. He's going to have that freedom that he can have because he's running it. And it's going to be only Jesus. You know, he don't got to accept anything in here. So I think that's part of God's will for our lives and our marriage, and it's only going to get better from here.
So we mentioned earlier that people are going to be coming here after rehab and jail.
Or off the street if they come.
Or off the street?
Like I say, I'm not going to close it in. I plan to be as open with as many rehabs and other sober livings as I can, because at the end of the day, like I said, we're not going to all mesh. I'm pretty straightforward. I don't pull no punches, so if they come in trying to feed me bull crap, I'm going to call them on it. Some people don't like that. Truth hurts sometimes.
Yeah.
But I want to be open because, you know, I don't want to just accept addicts. You know, I mean, I feel called to everybody. Everybody needs to see the light of Jesus. And instead of, you know, trying to get them inside a church, I'm just going to live it in front of them, you know, and I'm going to show them that love and that compassion that was showed to me by people and by, you know, God himself. You know, I mean, he sent his son to die. So, you know, that's a big part of what we're going to do here. And Bobby Nichols is the property manager of the place. And he's the one that I'm signing the contract with for the year. And, you know, he's one of the ones, you know, when I first came to Kentucky, I was his peer support. You know, he's comfortable with me saying that. And I was his peer support, you know, and 18 months later, here he is right in the middle of something that could be huge. I know the vision for this whole place is to redeem the community, but also to be a sober living community, you know, not just a house. That could be in the future, you know, and that's something that him and his benefactor have talked about and prayed about. And so, because they both have struggled with, you know, saying addictions. And so, you know, it touches everybody. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. You said that it doesn't really care much for age or race.
Yeah.
Or,
creed, religion, any background, socioeconomic status. Addiction can touch anybody. And it may not even be you being the addict. It might be the son, the daughter, or the grandson, granddaughter, the wife, the spouse, you know, the parents nowadays. You know, how many kids are growing up in this?
Oh, yeah. Now, let me ask you this. So, for kids, this place is 18 and older.
18 and older, yes.
Well, I guess before the kids thing, how many other places in the region or in the state, however you want to answer this, how common are halfway houses and sober living?
Sober livings. So I know as far as right now here in the Mount Sterling area, I only know of one, and that's Ross Rehab Shepherd Shelter.
Okay.
Pastor Wayne Ross and Jeanette Ross, they're amazing. They run a rehab, and they also have 2 different sober living facilities. So, or transitional is what they call them, but it's kind of the same thing. But they transition from the rehab to Theyre, and it's their own. It's the next step.
And that's not on the same location as...
One of the houses is on the same location, but it's a separate house.
Okay, cool.
And then they have a house down the street.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know of any other in Mount Sterling that we have. There's one in Clark County that I know of, maybe 2. Other than that, you're going to be going to like Lexington, Moorhead, Louisa area, Corbin, London have a huge recovery community. Yeah. I know Corbin especially. I know Jason Smallwood down there, Will Arvin up in Catlettsburg. He's with the ARC. They, that's up in Catlettsburg, Louisa, that area. But right around this area, man, there's not a lot. If you're not going to go to Lexington, that's pretty much it. And some of that has to do with jobs, but I've been in talks with some places that are a second chance opportunity for felons and addicts. Yeah. And so I think Mount Sterling has got the right mindset to be able to help support the guys, and give them that chance at employment, because sometimes, as addicts, we are almost looked at as the scum of society, we're the low and the lowly. And we don't think we can come out of that, we just need somebody to believe in us one time and give us a chance. And that's what I hope to do, and to encourage, Montgomery County as a whole to embrace.
And if I know much about you at all as a person, then it is that you're a very encouraging, charismatic guy. Like, it kind of bleeds off, and it'll run on to anybody that's around you, for sure.
I credit that to God, though. It's not me. That's one thing I do want to say. Anything that I do, man, I do it because of Him. I love recovery. I love the 12 steps. But at the end of the day, I know what the answer to life is, and that's Jesus Christ. So I do want to give Him all the glory.
So at this point, I would like to remind you all of the comment I made in the intro about sober living places being like restaurants, meaning that there should be different sober living places that cater to different people's needs. This is obviously a very religious-centered sober living house, and that's not for everyone. Now, we'll address that later on in the episode. That is something that Jeremy is aware of, and that he doesn't want to leave anybody out in the cold on that front. So we'll get there. Don't worry about that. But first, we're going to go through some other of the finer details about how this place works. And the first question we're going into is going to be about professional services being offered on site there.
We're brand new, so we're offering no professional services here for charge. I am a peer support specialist. In December, I'll have my bachelor's degree, so I'll be my TCADC. But I'm not going to offer that right now. Hopefully in the future, I do look to hopefully offer, hire a peer support that is a house manager. So that way I'm not here all the time. But as of right now, I'm going to be doing all of that. If they need doctor's appointments, that's going to be covered in their $100. I'm going to take them. I'm going to have a vehicle to take them to and from work, to and from doctor's appointments. If they're on insulin, hey, as long as we'll get them on insurance, we'll help them do all that. But as far as like actually providing services for them, I can just I've got a network big enough that I can get them out to like primary care or mental health and things like that. Cool. So, but there's no limit. If somebody come in here bipolar, schizophrenic, as long as they were willing to get treatment for that, I'm willing to accept them, because at the end of the day, I want this to be an open concept. And if I can't help them, I'm more than willing to let them point them somewhere else and even drive them there, because I don't want to ever let somebody, their health be the reason, or maybe an attitude or behavior be the reason they not get help. You know, so I'm more than willing to take them to another facility, because this is not, I'm not trying to be the only one. I'm encouraging anybody else that wants to open something like this too. Hey, open it. I'll help. What I'm learning here, I'll give out.
The money that's going to be used to get it started, you said like somebody already owns the building and they're letting you use the building.
Yeah, I'm leasing the building basically.
You're leasing the building. Things like the car, things like prices for food. I know people are going to be paying $100 to live here. That's
going to pay their rent, their utilities. Once a week we'll have a family dinner. We've prayed about that to kind of build that camaraderie. I'm going to take some of the money that they give me and I'll go buy like steaks and stuff. Right now the only funding that I have is what God's providing. If I'm allowed to do this, I'll do my little marketing pitch real quick.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So God took a little boy's lunch and fed 5,000 plus people. So I've asked my friends and family and anybody that believes in what we're doing and would love to support it for $1 a week. I have about 70 people that give me regularly every week. Some $1, some more. Some have just given a big one-time donation. I met a lady last night that said she'll donate all her time. She don't have, a lot of finances, but that's why I feel like God told me $1, because $1 a week at the end of the day doesn't seem like a lot, but $1 a week in God's hands that can be multiplied to exponentially. So, and it gives everybody the opportunity to pitch and help, because sometimes people are on fixed incomes. The way the economy is going, hey, we don't, some people don't have the money to donate, $50 a week or $100 a week. And that was just really the initial startup. And then also, because I want to eventually buy, if I buy this place or I buy my own place, I want to turn it into something bigger too. I want to give them, tiny homes. That's another vision of mine. Get a few acres, put little tiny homes on it. Hey, after you've been here 6 months to a year, you feel like you want the next step of independence. You don't want to share your place with nobody. Hey, pay me $100 a week. You can stay in the tiny home by yourself, like a 12 by 16 or 12 by 20 building. It's your own little home, and you don't have to, you're by yourself, but you're still in the, you're still right by the house, and you still have that level of accountability. Yeah. So, and that's where that goes to. And anybody that does donate, if you give me the email address, I send an itemized, detailed list of what I've spent the money on. Okay. None of that money goes to me. The only money I'm going to accept is 1 week out of what they pay me a month is going to be for me and my time. Other than that, the other 3 weeks are going to go to pay for their utilities to improve this place and get more programs for them, further my network. Yeah. So to be able to help them, because at the end of the day, I can only provide so much. I'm only one person. Yeah. And networking is an amazing tool. So. Yeah.
And that all sounds pretty standard. There are no surprises there. I know a lot of people that go about starting some kind of public service focused business are pretty wary to say straight up, we have to pay ourselves. So it's good that Jeremy is seeing that already. That is good advice that a lot of people will give to anybody starting their own service like this. So that's good. All the financial stuff seems to be pretty in line with what's normal. Now, this next bit seems to be coming out of left field, but Jeremy and I have often bonded over his gardening. He helped me with some tomatoes this past summer, and though I had no luck at all with the tomatoes, he was still kind enough to help me out with it. So here is some stuff about gardening.
The farm. How's the gardening coming?
It did okay this year. Our squash didn't do that good, though. Our tomatoes... They were all right, but our peppers did great. Peppers and cucumbers did awesome.
Is that anything you're going to be involving with?
Yes, I actually have I've been allowed this little shed out here. I'm going to turn into a chicken coop for the guys. Okay. And I'm going to help them. One, I'm going to teach them that. That's something else I'm going to teach them. I was raised on a farm, so hey, I'm going to put chickens out there. That's going to provide meat. We'll butcher a few of them. That'll provide eggs. I'm going to use a little bit of either the back or the front to do a little mini garden for them. And like I say, if I buy somewhere, hey, I might put a little greenhouse on there so we can do it year round, and then they can learn how to grow their own stuff. And sometimes for me, that's therapeutic. I love the garden, even though sometimes, I don't get out there as much as I should, but when I do get out there, it's my time to pray, and I'm able to just, it's something good about growing your own food and raising your own food. So that's one of the skills I want to teach them. I kind of want to just be an open book to them. If they want to learn about that, I'm going to teach them what I know. If they want to learn about tech, I'll teach them what I know. Okay. School, me and my wife, we've helped plenty of people since we've been in Kentucky get in school. Okay. And not just for recovery. Some people, they wanted to be other things. They're not just peer support. This can be college and everything. Yeah. So trades, and I'm actually going to try to talk with MCTC and BCTC to see if I can't, get like a success coordinator designated to be like, hey, I'm going to send my guys to you and you help them get on their feet. Because at the end of the day, not everybody's meant to go to college. Some people are meant to be trades. Some may not need to do linemen or electricians, welders, and, all of that, framers. And so, I want to be able to give them every opportunity to be successful.
Yeah. Cheers to it. That sounds great, man. Yeah. Goodness gracious. Yeah. Yeah. And so what's exciting sounding about this is like something that people just kind of dream about, like we're talking about living with friends, and like some very tight-knit community that seems like this place is going to be bound by more spiritual forces than any other kind of selfish endeavor. Yeah. And that definitely drives for good results. And yeah, That's
one thing I do
great.
want to say too, though. I want to put it out there is when it even though I do believe that I'm in God's will in this, and this is what God's given me to do. If somebody doesn't believe in God, I'm not going to turn them away. You know, the church today, we're real big to stand on a soapbox about, you know, drugs or same-sex marriages, homosexuality and all that. Man, look, if somebody wants to come out here and see Jesus' love, I don't care if they hate God and don't believe in him, whatever, I'm going to accept them. Because that's the at the end of the day, I believe everybody needs Jesus more than they need anything else. And with Jesus, the 12 steps makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know, if you try to use that doorknob as your higher power, it don't make a lot of sense. So
And that's what I was just sitting here thinking before he said that was, you know, we're going to love them where they're at. They come out here and they don't want to serve God, or they come out here and, you know, we're going to drug test them, we're going to do all that, but we're not just going to kick them to the rocks if they mess up. We're going to love them back to where they need to be. Now we're going to have, you know, some rules and guidelines, but, you know, one thing that I've learned because of, you know, they can go back and hear our story, but one thing I've learned with Jeremy and been married and through our marriage and through everything we've been through is, hey, you got to show people grace. I was a real hardball at the beginning, and you know, God had to take me through that and show me how to give him grace and mercy. And, you know, I think that's probably, I'm going to live that here now because I'm going to have these guys coming in and, you know, I'm going to have to pray for them, and I'm going to have to, there's things that I've got to do that God's already showing me, you know, and to love them back to where they need to be because, you know, a lot of these men, and I'm going to speak on the men's side because this is going to be for sober living for men, but a lot of them have a void in their heart because they don't have a mama. They don't have somebody that has been there and shown them love. They don't have a wife that respects them. I mean, they don't, you know, you don't know what they have in a mother figure that's that void. And I feel like that's going to be a lot of people that do come out here as well, you know. So I think that's one thing that God has shown me is we're going to have to love them where they're at. Yeah. Not just, oh, you can't be here because you've done this. I mean, me and Jeremy will pick you up off the side of the road. You can call 2, 3 in the morning. We'll come get you. We're going to have resources. We're going to have, you know, God's going to provide and continue like he has been. We've picked many people off the side of the road and took them as far as Louisa. We've took people to Indiana. I mean, we've picked people.
Ohio.
I mean, there's all kind of places we've, you know, and that's one thing at the beginning of our marriage. I wouldn't pick nobody up off the side of the road because I was scared. Because, you know, that's what my dad taught me. But, you know, being with Jeremy, he's opened my eyes to that a lot. And at the end of the day, if something was to happen, God's got me. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's one door that's open. If we see him on the side of the road, we're picking him up and we're going to bring him here. We don't have that avenue where we're at now. But now we're going to have that. So I think that, like I said, a lot of the visions and the things that God's going to use Jeremy, that he's used Jeremy for and shown him is going to be able to happen through this. Because now we're going to have somewhere where we can be like, we don't got to take you and drop you off at a homeless shelter. You can come home.
Yeah.
And we
one
know
of the
that
rooms are going to be dedicated for like emergency cases if somebody, you know, that like somebody is on the side of the road, but they decide they don't want to get clean or they don't want to, you know, they'll still have a place to sleep for the night if it's cold. You know, I'm going to dedicate one room to that, you know, so that'll be 4 beds, you know, so in case somebody happens to be in that situation and the next day they wake up and they're like, oh, I'm ready to go get high. And then, hey, okay, well, we'll take you back into the town, and then, you know, that's on you, but we'll try to talk them out of that. We'll try to tell them, hey, look, we can get you to a rehab 30 days, you can come here, or 60, 90, whatever, and then we'll accept you back here. You know, we'll make sure that we have a bed for you.
Because I do have a story on that. Like, one time we picked somebody off at the side of the road, and he was walking. I'm not going to mention the name, but it was raining, and we were coming home from church, and, you know, I believe in divine appointments, and we had left Walmart and headed home, you know, Powell County from Montgomery. And I just happened to look over and see somebody sitting on Levee. And I'm like, shouldn't have seen him. It was God. And I didn't, Jeremy didn't see him. I was like, we need to turn around. And he's like, what? So we turned around, make a long story short, this guy, we ended up taking him to a homeless shelter and dropping him off.
In Beautiful.
But he kept up with me. And he called me. He listened. And, you know, through that, he got his identity back. He got his license back, his stuff back, and he got on his feet. So
and he went to rehab.
And then he went to, you know, he carried on. And now, I mean, I haven't heard from him for a while, but still, I know that those little steps and those little seeds, because sometimes we might not ever hear from this man again, but, you know, just by us being obedient and listening, there's no telling what that seed was planted, that somebody had hope for him. You know, and that's what one big thing I think is going to be for here, because we're going to have that. Hey, come on.
Hence the name Redemption House too. We want people to redeem their lives back. You know, I want them to be able to feel like a person again, because at the end of the day, in addiction, man, we do things to our bodies, to our friends, our family. We allow things in our life that really tear at our soul, you know, tear at our spirit. And so, like, that's why I named it Redemption House. You know, my LLC is Redemption Services. Hopefully one day I hope to plan to have a couple little businesses for him to where I can pay him good money. I don't want to, you know, this is not something I'm doing for money. We have money. I resell, she works, he works. We don't really have to, I don't have to have this. This is for the guys. This is for the people that we're going to help. And that's why I say when we do this, it's going to be, if they don't want to be here, hey, I'll take you down the road. I told Will Arvin and Earl both, I was like, look, if they're 5 hours from Mount Sterling, I'll go get them, no questions asked. We'll drop everything and go get them. One of us will. You know, well, me or him, it won't never be her alone. But one of us will go get them, no questions asked. If it's any longer than that, it's going to be a whole day journey. I just got to make sure I got a house manager here, somebody responsible that can watch over this. Because at the end of the day, we got to do things in order and have the structure that we don't have on the street.
Yeah.
So my takeaway from this whole conversation is this is nothing mind-blowing. This is nothing revolutionary. This is just adding to a growing list of resources available in our state. And that's what it comes down to. This means that more people are going to be able to make their own choices rather than be stuck in the same environment that they've been in for years. We all know how much of an influence your environment, your immediate environment, plays on your behavior. So this is helping combat that. All right, so now we're at the end of the episode pretty much. So that means it's time for shout outs and contact information. Bring it on.
I do want to give a couple shout outs to the people that have helped form my outlook on recovery here since I've been in Kentucky. It's a lot different than Oklahoma because I started as Pierceport in Oklahoma. Of course, Spark, you know, we started with Janelle Brewer. She does amazing work. And, you know, also I wanted to touch on Tony's story at Harvest Time. He was very open to having addicts come in straight off the street, still high. His church accepted them. Restoration Community Church here in Mount Sterling, Robbie Workman, and Refinery, Daniel Likens. They've all... they're recovery minded. They want to reach people. They don't care what you look like. They don't care. They've really changed my view on, you know, how to approach recovery, you know, because sometimes when we mix in our religious or spiritual beliefs in with recovery, that can sometimes cause a tear in between the two. But those people have really showed me how you can mix both. You know, and I mean, and at the end of the day, hey, none of us perfect. We all make mistakes, but those are the ones I would say probably that have shaped the most. And Lisa Van Hoos, you know, she's part of Spark also. She's amazing. Johnny Hurt. I just want to shout out those few names because those are the ones that we first met. You know, we first came to Kentucky, and that's, you know, you hear that in another podcast, and you know, I want to give that shout out because, you know, at the end of the day, this isn't just about Redemption House. This is about being a lot where I'm at. You know, I go to church in Montgomery County. She works in Montgomery County. He works in Montgomery County. You know, we live in Powell County, you know, and Spark's got that. You know, I mean, Janelle's got that. And so we're here, you know, we want to be a lot where we're at. You know, and so, you know, that's basically it. Like I said, I'm not going to be selfish. If somebody wants in and wants to help, as long as they're willing to, you know, put God first in everything, I'm going to let them help. And if somebody wants to leave because they don't like the way I do things, hey man, where do you want to go? Let me get you to where you need to go. So that way I know you're safe. I know you're not just going back out there on the street and back into a bad situation.
Two things. How would somebody find this place? Where are we at exactly? And like, how does somebody get into the Redemption House?
I am in the process. I've given you some of my business cards. I am in the process of finalizing my living contract, house rules, and basically the application to get out here. I've talked to ARC. I've talked to the drug court in Clark County. I'm in talks with the jail. I minister at the jails with a couple guys from my church on Tuesday nights. I'm in talks with the jail to do that. My ministry is called Redemptive Fire Ministries. It's kind of all one, but the business is separate essentially because, you know, God's a God of order. But you know, I want to help, you know, and that's the thing. Like, I want to network as much as I can. I don't care about having all the guys out here. You know, if they want to come out here, it's Little Rock, not Arkansas, Kentucky. If you're coming from Mount Sterling, you literally just come down going towards Sharpsburg, turn left on the Old Maysville Road. You get to Judy Drive-In, turn left. We're about 8-9 miles. It's 3047 Cane Ridge Road, right by the old general store. We're the 7-bedroom house right next to the old general store. And if you want to reach me on our business phone, it's 606-386-6855. And the email is jthompson@redemptionservices.net. That's my own domain. And you can mail any kind of any request for literature or anything to P.O. Box 751, Clay City, Kentucky 40312.
And one thing I want to add, we're going to be sending out newsletters. So if you want to get on that list of a newsletter, you can send us a letter to our P.O. Box.
Or email us.
Call us. If you want to donate, we're going to have some things where you can donate for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months that you can commit to a year. We're going to be sending that out in the next few months. It's some things that God had kind of put in order before this happened. So we've been working on that together. So I want to get that out there as well. But one thing for sure is we're going to welcome anybody, and we're not going to judge y'all. We want this out here. We're willing to partner and help with other people. We don't want to just push people away.
Yeah. So
if somebody else calls and needs, hey, can you go pick this person up? We don't have the ability. Hey, if we're able, we're going to help.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Even if they're not coming here, even if it's to take them to another facility, we will do that because that's what we're about. We're about recovery. We're about working together. Because at the end of the day, it's not about me or my personality or my ego. It's about putting God first and just being a light. Yeah. And even if you want to come out and volunteer, you don't got, you want to just come out and mentor and encourage the guys. Hey, I welcome that. As long as you call me first, I welcome people to come out and just encourage us, hang out. We're just normal people, man. We just made some bad choices.
And I'm very pleased to say that as of December of 2022, Redemption House is open for business. Now, they gave you their contact information, and we've got it written down in the bio of this episode. So if you want to get involved in any kind of way, if you want to live there, if you want to be a volunteer, if you want to get signed up to donate, then you can contact them by email or phone. And if you just want to drive out there, we've also got the physical address along with some directions from Mr. Thompson. So if you want to get involved in any way, the way to do that is to reach out to Jeremy and Edna Thompson at Redemption House. I want to reiterate again, I feel like I've said this 1,000 times today, but the thing is, this is one of many avenues to getting people the help that they need. This isn't better or worse than a lot of other options. This is just another option, and that is great. If you're somebody that thinks you would like to get a sober living house started wherever you live, it's not the hardest process. You can do that. It just takes deciding that you want to do it and figuring out some ways for the money to work out. The reason we did this episode is, one, to help support Jeremy because he's a friend, but also to encourage other people that if you want to do something like this, it's entirely possible. Normal people are starting these things. Well, thank you all for tuning in to The Local Lens. I'm your host, Nate Brooks. These are our people, using our voices, telling our stories, because no one sees it like we do.